What's going on, everyone? What's going on?
Good evening, Internet. How are you?
Hey.
Definitely, definitely. It looks like our guy DP returns and he's already muted. So we'll, we'll get that freshman energy back up.
So y'all didn't hear anything I said
Oh,
off camera. That is crazy. Wow.
no, we didn't. That's
Y'all
wild, man.
started
And we
here
forgive
and
you for
just
that.
like,
You're fine.
oh,
It's all right.
Jesus Christ.
Rookie mistake. It's your first stream ever. So
Yeah,
welcome to Carbonite
first
Monday.
stream ever, and you've been off the grid for a whole week. So
So welcome back. But yeah, guys, this will be our Star Wars Vision Season 2. Basically, part one breakdown. We'll go to episodes one through three. We'll do a part two, 4 to 6, and then a part three, 7 to 9. So before we even dump into these wonderful Vision stories, let's let our new member DP tell you guys where to find us at.
go
Let
easy
me
on
see
your
if I,
folks.
let me see if I remember how to do this. Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Make sure that you go to your favorite website. Get all your favorite social media platforms at Nerdcyclopedia with us and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok. If you're listening to us on your phone, podcast, and everything, we are on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, thank you. You can hit that subscribe, smash that subscribe button, and also hit that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. Watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Make sure you join our Carbonite Bounty BS Star Wars group, so you get all your favorite memes, all your Thomas Hastings stuff material. Just basically, just talking about different Star Wars stuff, and meeting some new friends there. Leave us a good leave us some feedback, at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting your feedback and everything, and you letting us know how you feel about what we do on here.
Good, good. Good to have the intro
He
back.
did. He did pretty good. He did pretty good.
Yeah,
That was
you
all
did.
right.
You
That
did.
was
I
all
still
right.
got it. Still got it.
Yeah,
We
we still
did.
got it. Well, maybe we'll have him back next week. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, guys, as we discussed, we just started our watch party or our reviews of Star Wars Visions, and we'll give you our part one to the first three, and we'll try to do our best to not peek too far into the future with the other ones. But yeah, guys, it's I guess as far as initial reviews, I know the episodes weren't too long, so we won't really do initial reviews. So we'll just kind of dive right into it, and with our guy having an extra week off, we'll let him lead us off. So DP, how do you want to start this week off as far as your first three watches of Visions, and what were your thoughts?
So, I mean, as soon as I, turned it on and everything, they had the episode title on there like Sith, and I was like, okay, this is about to be something, for the first episode, it was titled Sith. So I love the animation, love the painted style of the episode and everything. 15 minutes long, not too long, not too short and everything. Got into like different I guess it was a Sith apprentice, and she just was doing her own thing and everything, and she got into that round. What I don't know what the round thing is called, but it was a cool looking cycle thing, going against the very cool looking Sith lords. I thought her laser sword, if you want to call it lightsaber and everything, was pretty decent. I liked everything about that episode. From just everything from the animation, down to like the story. So I mean, it started off. I text you guys off camera and everything. That it was just starting off good to me. The second episode, it was pretty good. I like the scariness of it. It got into like a little horror thing, with the ghost in the cave and stuff. So I thought that was like, pretty interesting. Um, and the animation to me was just okay. So I could like, give or take about that. The story itself, was pretty decent. And then it's sort of like a little sad at the end where, he had to separate from his other friends and everything, because they were, they were a part of something, and then he was like the only one that could be taken from, you know, chosen from them, to go about. So I thought that was pretty emotional at the end and everything. So that sort of struck me. I really like that third episode. with the two sisters. And you know, the one sister had, in the very beginning, she was trying to use her, so fortunately I guess she had the force to try to get that TIE fighter, to stop and everything. And then her sister ended up saving her and everything. But just to think what the Empire did, like, they took all the water, poisoned the world, leaving all the natives, like, angry and lusting for revenge and stuff. I thought that was just like really great Empire stuff. Anything, because you guys know I hate the Empire, right? So anything that has to do with them just decimate, the planets and stuff. I mean, you just can't take to that and everything. But I thought the sister's plight, and then at the end where she the one sister used her force, force powers to save her little sister. I thought that was just great. The animation was good. It was not as great to me as like the first one, but I love the story of the third one. So for great first start for what we've seen with the first 3 episodes to me.
Mhm.
What about you, Hitch?
Well, it's interesting that we get the international take on Star Wars. I think mostly Japanese last time with Vision. So we get, I think Spain is Sith. Really,
Scotland.
I got it. Scotland is
Yep.
its own country now.
Yep.
Just kidding, Scotland. Don't send me hate mail. But I really enjoyed Sith a lot. And I liked how they used color as a symbol. I liked how it was, like DP said, very painterly, but yet realistic. I thought that the figure of the Sith Lord cut was creepy, a creepy looking sort of dude. Very interesting, like flopping dog ears coming off him, like just weird. Like what comes off a person's head like that? You're gonna need pipes up there. Like that's a weird place for pipes. Really like that a lot. Screecher's Reach was an interesting episode to me, and I like the idea of them going on this hero's journey, and there really only being space for one person on the spaceship is such an interesting plot dynamic, and it really says a lot about what kind of Jedi is getting off this world. It's someone who's willing to leave their friends behind and kill some banshee. Like it takes a certain amount of gumption to take up the hero's quest in this series, which I like a lot. So very, very neat. And the sisters, I mean, the Empire just breaks stuff. That's what they do. They break things, and they want to remake the world or remake the galaxy in a certain image, but that doesn't mean that their plans for your world are pleasant. I think this episode really shows that these antler people, need to be left alone by the Empire. Like you can't, water vapor is a pretty cheap resource when you think about things galactically. Like, why would you want to come all the way down the gravity well to some rocky planet to get it when you can just get it from the outer planets? But hey, whatever. Empire wants to be evil. They want to be evil. Maybe that's the whole point. I don't know. So an excellent way to kick us off. I'm glad we're getting the international and the stylistic differences. And, Visions is its own thing, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ken?
So I really dig this series. Like this leg of Star Wars. I like this first season, and this one's really starting off with a really high note for me too. I like that we're getting a different perspective of the Sith and what that means and what it could mean. And what I mean by that is one line in particular in the first episode: light and darkness are both together. They make the painting. The painting is what we are living through. And I think Lola saw that she was trying to paint it out, but she couldn't. She couldn't get rid of the darkness. She had to embrace it. And at the end, we saw her embrace it in her weapon. It was both. And that was the first. I feel like this story is starting out where we're seeing maybe things for the first time, a double-bladed weapon of some sort, and it's light and dark. I enjoyed that episode a lot. I felt that Lola is a character that I could see give me a film, give me a trilogy based on this character. Very strong. Screecher's Reach continued the Sith storyline. when that, the whole thing was Dale, that she was called, what was her name? Daal. Dale
Call
was
or whatever.
called
Yeah, yeah.
to a mission. She had to prove herself. She had to find herself, and she had her mission was to conquer this scary thing in this mountain that everyone was afraid of. So she took her friends. It was like the Goonies or something, right? So they went to the mountain, and she stood up to the ghost Sith and vanquished it. And the Sith mother came down, and the reason why the others couldn't go is because Sith are a master and apprentice. There's no one else. So that's her mission. Now she is going to become a Sith apprentice. They're making it. They're not evil. They're just another way of looking at the galaxy. Third episode sort of merged the two together. I mean, I wasn't sure whether the sisters were really light or dark. They were kind of just on their own. Yes, the Empire came in, took their resources, took all their water, poisoned their land. Yeah, that's what they do, right? That's what we expect of the Empire, DP. We expect them to come down, poison and pillage and destroy. That's what they do. That's
the way of life.
That's way of life. So now we have this tribe of people, and the only two left are these two sisters, and they are force tuned, and they used painting. So I thought that was a nice call back to the first episode, because we started with painting and we sort of ended our 3-episode story with painting. So it was very nice to see how these 3 episodes, although they were 3 different content stories, they were connected. I mean, we were getting a very nice backstory to the Sith lore that is new to me. I think new to a lot of people that might be watching these, but this Vision series, they need to keep doing this. And I would love to see some of this stuff like live. Although, I mean, the animation, I forgot that it was animation halfway through. I like, wow. I mean, this is really good, especially when the Sith Master was sort of confronting Lola. I mean, some of those scenes were super real. And I really liked the drag the lightsaber across the ground. That was like General Grievous stuff right there. But I'm a fan of this series, and that's all I have to say on that.
Right. Yeah, and to close it out with you guys, I mean, I share the same thoughts. I mean, I really like how the Sith, it seems like this year of Visions, this season, have really been brought to the forefront. And as you guys said it, and I've rightly said, it seems that they're painting the Sith in this kind of new Star Wars reality. Is not really just this all-powering evil. I mean, when you see the Emperor, he is obviously the be-all and end-all and the all-conquering evil. But as you see everybody under him, the Sith are just as conflicted as the Jedi, it seems like. A lot of them are navigating, as we see with Lola. She's a Sith that's defected away from the Order, which is known as a Sith. She's conflicted. So it just shows you that, and then obviously towards the end, as you see, her lightsaber, one being light, one being dark. It seems like we're getting that balance in this Filoni verse that a lot of people didn't see. I mean, when we watched Star Wars, as far as the Lucas cuts, there was a line in the sand. It's either you're light or dark. The only one that kind of toted that line would have been Qui-Gon, and obviously he was gone in the prequels. So with these newer stories, we're hearing of these more dark Jedi or gray Jedi or whatever you want to call them. But I'd like to see the balance, so to speak. And as you said, embracing the light and the dark seems to be a common theme. And as we get into these later Vision stories, we'll even see that further. So it's like this was a good start. And then as they built up into the next series, it even took these stories to another level.
I'm seeing, like, it seems like with this season of Visions versus the first season, they're not really saying whether any of this stuff is canon, but it feels like a lot of the stories, at least so far, are more integrated into the universe than what we've seen in like the first season. And it seems like the backstory, especially the Sith stuff, like the Empire stuff and everything, it seemed like they could just integrate that into canon, and it'll just fit like naturally. And you can actually expand on stories in the future.
Yeah, like when Lola had to start her StarCraft at the end by punching the dashboard. That's a Star Wars thing. That's Han hitting the Falcon to get it to start. I mean, that to me connected. And yeah, you're right, DP. The first season of Visions was real, like sort of disjointed. They were literally, I didn't even forget how many episodes there were. They were just these little stories that maybe someone wanted had this idea about how R2 might have felt in this particular situation, and they wanted to do a little story. But this is starting out as they want to actually integrate into what we already have. I mean, all of these three little stories that we're talking about could easily be plunked in right in what we are like looking at right now.
They're like smaller stories of the smaller stories that, if you go into like an Andor type of thing where it's like, far away, this tells an even smaller story of like, people, bystanders and everything, if you want to call them, of different things that happen like in the universe. And like I said, I could just see it just fitting seamless into like, regular canon if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think the big one, and this will be our first big talking point I want to delve into, you guys, and Ken, you've alluded to it, so I'll give you the credit on this one.
Oh, thanks.
We've already talked about the character Lola, right, and her confliction and the light and the dark, right? So we understand her. So in 15 minutes, this is the first talking point, right? In her 15-minute cameo, and Hitch already knows where I'm going with this. Why couldn't we get this in 9 hours of Rey? I'm just being quite honest, right? Because her story, the light and the dark, the master, that's exactly but it doesn't mimic because Rey, that was what Rey should have been, and it took 15 minutes to get that, right? That's what I feel like, at least. I mean, we talked about it. Force Awakens starts, you're like, yeah, you're excited, but then we get the conflict. But in this 15 minutes short, it literally summed up Rey's arc. I personally feel tighter than what we got on screen for 9 hours. Because that's what I wanted, right? The confliction. She was a Sith granddaughter or whatever. Like, we could have had that in the big screen. The red lightsaber. Like,
for the third movie, though, right?
The cleanup act, yeah, if you want to call it that. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. we did it all in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And Lola, to me, is more relatable than Rey in 15 minutes.
I like Lola's character.
Lola's cool.
Yeah.
What is she running from? And that's the interesting thing is like how do you pull yourself out of the Sith? Like what does that even look like? Is it like leaving the drug trade? Trying to jump you out.
Yeah, she was on this planet. Like she had a whole she had a whole job. Like her job was to monitor these, these communication towers, and she had to daily go out and make sure they were all, number 7 was always malfunctioning, always failing. So that was the trap. But yeah, like how did she get the gig? How did she get there? Like, that's what I was thinking. The third time I watched the episode, I'm thinking now, like, well, who sent her there? Like, no, she defected from the Sith. I get it. She doesn't want to go down that path. But then who's her employer? Where does her paycheck come from? But then I was thinking, you know what? This is so good. I don't care. Like, I just like where she's at, and where her head is at when it comes to this conflict. And she stands her ground, and she wallops their ass. I mean, there's no question that she was the better person, the better fighter. And E2, what a great little droid, little spider droid thing. I mean, that's what I like too. That harkened back to the Star Wars universe for me. The little useful droid blowing the head off a Sith droid. I mean,
and teammates, you were talking about like the arc of Rey. It would have been to Ken's point interesting to see where the arc of Lila would be, and like how she became a Sith. How did seeing where she's at right now? How did her origin became to be to where she is right now, to where she ended up, being a former Sith, and defecting from that. I like how Ahsoka defected from like, being a Jedi and stuff. We got to see Ahsoka's arc, and see how that expanded and developed her character well. This character here, where she stands, I mean, we're grabbed immediately, to where she is. So just seeing like her whole art, whole story and everything would be interesting if they chose to use her again and everything. And I think she's going to end up being a popular character too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I see an action figure, like for sure. Like for
You
real.
always see action figures. That's the only thing you see.
Hey, Disney's got to make a buck. So Ahsoka, right? Why did she fall away from the Jedi?
She didn't fall away. She was kicked out.
It was her teacher. Yeah. Anakin was like, she was like, he's gone wacko. I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, she defected. She didn't really defect. She was kicked out. She was banished.
Well,
and that's like the whole thing as far as like being a Jedi. She was a Force user and a light side Force user, but as far as like being a Jedi, she was kind of like an outcast.
She was an outcast.
Like a game, right?
She was a muggle, right?
Yeah.
She was a mudblood.
Right. So yeah, you guys bring up a big point. Like, how do you how do you defect from the Sith? Because usually it's like you're there or you're dead. So I mean, I understand the fact that like her master lost her because obviously, like we learned in Obi-Wan, you just turn your powers off, right? You stop using it. So obviously, when she started to paint and use the Force, her master sensed her, which was like, to get the beacon, right? You give yourself away. You start Force, using the Force in the air to move paint and whatnot, and it's like a dead giveaway. You turn your beacon on, so that might have
you can only stay in the Sithness protection program if you do not use your powers.
If you do not use your powers for good.
What did we see from Andor? She was in the reintegration program, right? The reintegration to society after
the amnesty program.
Yeah,
we're not going to punish you at all, even some.
Yeah, right?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You slaughtered kids, families. It's okay. We'll reintegrate you back into society. Wonder how Anakin would have did in that program.
He's in it. He's in it right now.
He could be.
That's the whole Darth Vader bit is reintegration.
Right.
Palpatine's like, we're gonna get you back into society, but first this suit.
First this suit.
and
you're trying
that's something too. I like the common theme, like the evil. The really evil guy. So the Sith Master has always got some respiration. There's always something keeping the humanoid side of it alive.
Yeah.
And that's a great thread, like to weave through the whole thing. Because I mean, think of all our favorite evil characters, General Grievous, Kylo Ren, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Whatever this guy's name was. I looked in the credits. All it says was Sith Master. I don't know what this guy's name is.
They all have breathing problems.
They all have respiration problems, and that's a thing. So like when you destroy the human piece of you so much with evil or fighting or whatever it is,
cigarettes.
You got cigarettes, right? He was probably smoking Marlboros like 12 packs a day. And you have to keep it alive somehow. So respiration's a big thing with the Sith, apparently.
Sith's got to breathe, So
Sith got to breathe.
They can't stop. That's the whole point of the Sith. You just stay alive forever, never die.
Yeah.
Be a Sith.
That's a side note. Okay, maybe this question has been answered, but this was something that's been just popped into my head. What's with the buttons on Darth Vader's chest? Like, what do they do? Like. What
you mean the toggle switches?
Yeah.
They're like play, pause, stop, record.
Where do you think the Imperial March is coming from?
Yeah, where do you
he's
think
walking around the ship?
The soundboard. It's just
like when he heard a song on the radio that he wanted to get, he'd hit record because he'd have a tape in there. That's what that was. That's the.
I have my own theme music when I fight. It plays a song. Well, I killed all these peasants.
There's the same stuff on the rebel pilots. Uniform had the same toggle switches. They just painted them different colors. It's the same.
I've always wondered that, so I'm glad I got an explanation.
There you go. That's what
it could have been like Simon the Memory Game, the old game we used to play. Maybe it was like on his chest. You just gotta match up the colors to whatever it does.
I've been playing this one for a long time.
Because they either played like on the Death Star, the Imperial
Probably.
governor, where the governors were. They either played musical chairs or they played Simon.
They played Simon on his chest.
Or Duck Goose.
Right.
One of the three things. It was a very big Imperial activity.
You do not want to beat the goose.
No. Vader cooks the goose.
Can you imagine if Vader loses? Like, you're choked the shit out.
Yeah.
Like, you're done. Like, you can't let him lose. He can't lose.
He's just holding you like this as he
Right?
walks around the circle.
Like, for real. Imagine if you try to run from him and he can't get you. You're just choked out.
He just pulls you back.
Yep.
Oh, Vader.
Yeah.
What a nice guy. The Empire is great.
Yeah. They must have some fun games on the Death Star. A lot to do out there. A lot of fun times.
You have
I'm
to.
going to
If you're
organize
really
a
on
rec
something called the Death
basketball
Star.
league.
Right?
Basketball league. Oh,
Yeah. Imagine community dodgeball on the Death Star. Wow. The force
The
pushing
game's
the
going on forever because it's just a bunch of stormtroopers playing. They can't hit nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're not hitting nobody.
Yeah.
They walk so stiff, like, oh my gosh, it would be hilarious.
All those guys with the
You brought
sideburns.
that up. So in the third episode, the sisters, they're snow troopers, right? They couldn't hit the side of a barn. These guys were the worst shots I've ever seen, and I'm in the Empire's corner. Like I think they are, they have what they know what they're doing. They got an army. I think they look cool. The uniforms are great. But these stormtroopers need trained. Like I don't know what they thought they were shooting at, but these two like you said, antlered headed chicks. I mean, they were just they were out of there.
They were trained by G.I. Joes. Or
Stormtroopers are like the Washington Generals of Star Wars. Like they're just there to take the L. That's it. That's like they're never there to. They've never W. Never.
No. Yeah, they're there to lose.
They are there to lose.
And we want them to lose because they're evil and they're mean and they're doing things to people that we don't want to have happen and blah 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 blah. But these snowtroopers were completely off base. Like they weren't hitting nothing.
No, not at all.
So, do you guys think when Obi-Wan said only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise that he was being sarcastic?
Yes.
Oh, only those guys can shoot this straight.
Yep. I think he was.
But really, the shots are everywhere. Like it's just real sloppy work, and he's like, "That must be the stormtroopers."
Yeah, but think about what he was trying to do. He needed to get Luke to come with him so he could begin his training because he saw this entire arc that was headed toward, a trilogy and then the next 3 films, and he knew Luke had to be part of it. So, what are you going to tell somebody? You're going to tell somebody that, hey, these guys are really bad. You got to come with me so we can start this big adventure and knock them off. Do our thing, take them out. Lies, all lies.
Yeah, all lies. That's all they do. Lie. Yeah.
The Sith and their silly lies.
But I mean, yeah, you bring a cool point also that was like, this last story, kind of the two sisters, they weren't really, Jedi. We don't know if their mother was a former Jedi, but we just know they have the Force. So it kind of brought back your Broom Boy memories of somebody who has a Force, or like even, what was it in Rogue One? The Asian guy with the blind man with the stick, right?
Yep. I'm one of the Force is with me.
Yeah, so it's like some people were Force sensitive and had a grasp of it, but weren't really trained. So it kind of brings back that whole opening of just like not only being a Sith or a Jedi, but also the fact that there were Force sensitives in the universe and on other planets that were never, captured or tapped into. So it was kind of like a unique take on the last two of a creed of people that were, basically persecuted and enslaved to their death, right? So it was a interesting story.
In these 3 stories, so we kind of talked about it. There's some international connections. So the first was Spanish, sort of that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And then the middle one, Streaker's Reach, was Scotland. I mean, they were talking about arse. They were talking about putting a foot up their arse. I mean, that's their take on how the Force and the universe kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, I couldn't really tell. I couldn't really tell from the story writing or the dialect, but it seemed to be kind of, I don't know, maybe French. It's kind of a different vibe. I don't know. I'm not familiar with
like an indigenous vibe from it. Something like that.
Yeah, and there were 3 different takes on how you could deal with the Force.
Yeah.
You know, it could be something that was family oriented, passed down to you.
Mm-hmm.
You could be imbued with it. You could be born with it, or you could just kind of have it and not know why. You know, you don't really know what the meaning is, but you know you have a calling for it. So I thought that was kind of cool too.
I tell you one thing. I mean, the stories, while the animation varies and everything, the stories themselves can be expanded beyond there's some really interesting stories and stuff, ideas that they put in there, at least for these first 3 episodes that I've seen, that could really be expanded on. I don't think I felt that with the first, Visions, where I liked a lot of the stuff on there. A couple episodes were like, but these first 3, they're some bangers, just, starting out with, with a lot of, like I said, a lot of the ideas that can definitely be expanded on.
Very strong.
Yeah,
they were all very strong episodes. I really felt like 12 minutes wasn't enough. These needed to be like the 20, 25 minute, like Clone Wars type of thing that we were kind of used to.
Great point. Because sometimes in the Clone Wars, we got like mini episodes, like standalone off episodes and everything. That is right, about 20, 25 minutes or so. This is what this could have been.
Yes.
If they wanted to go that route.
Yeah. And the music too. The soundtracks to these episodes were intense, and they were all different composers.
Mm-hmm.
They were all different directors, and none of it was really associated to Disney property. These were all they were inspired by, in fact, I like the way they worded it, inspired by Star Wars, written by George Lucas.
Right.
So they were fans. I mean, I think these people just wanted to write stories that involved Star Wars because they loved the world. They didn't necessarily need the thing to fit in, but they wanted to give their take on it.
I wonder if George Lucas ever wants to get back in the game.
To let him have a visions.
I'll bet his phone is blown up every day with text messages and, hey, what do you think about this? Could I do this? Does this make sense?
Probably that, but I kind of get the idea that they just have him just, okay, he wants to get in, but they just have him, all right, you stay there. We don't want to get too involved. We'll text you and, get your input and everything. But as far as like putting you on a writing credit, oh, hell no.
Hell no, they're not doing
not
that.
After Phantom Menace.
Nah.
You created the whole damn thing.
Right. You're dad. You're dad, right? It's
kind of like Arnold Palmer, right? During the Masters, they let you show up, and kind of walk up the course.
But you can't play.
Nah, you're gonna walk the course and look at everything, shake some hands, like.
Nah,
you can make sure all their jackets are the right color gold.
Right, yeah.
You ain't playing. You're not picking up a club.
I mean, just think about it. They still allegedly have his scripts, locked away for 7, 8, 9, for whatever you believe. Some say that he wrote them, some say that they don't exist, but only time will tell if they really do exist or if these stories were true. I mean,
same thing with the end of Game of Thrones, though. We'll see. We'll see if it materializes.
Yeah, great. That'll never
Yours,
end.
we see right the Snyder cut, right? We thought that was dead, and look, it looks like this guy's resurrected from the Lazarus pit. You know, Zack Snyder's DC stories have been resurrected from the Lazarus pit. So Ra's al Ghul does exist.
Anything that looks like he can make some money. Announcement that George Lucas will get back into Star Wars will present like a major announcement for like the franchise and stuff.
Well,
People will be interested.
He would come back to direct like that Tech episode of Bad Batch from this season where Tech won the race. That's the George Lucas. Like that's what George Lucas will come back and do and be like
Skywalker pod race, yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough crashes, more crashes.
He had more, work than just Star Wars. I mean, he had, Indiana Jones. I mean, that was a huge franchise, and right? Willow, exactly.
Willow.
And there was a lot more that he did than, I mean, Grant, yes, Star Wars was his thing, but I mean, that's big. That's like the Bible. I mean, it's been written, and
that's a great segue, Hitch. That is a great segue.
I'm not doing it this time. I'm gonna pass. I talk about this stuff every time. It's got to be boring. It's got to be boring to everybody that I talk about that crap.
That's our weekly. No, that's like a weekly thing we like.
No,
we look forward for it.
The development of
tie it all back to reality for us.
Yeah, please do.
How does Star Wars relate to actual real life?
All right.
Because we don't already know.
Yeah, so I mean,
Roman Empire.
I suppose you have the traditions of in the Christian faith, you have the traditions of these people that are like hermits that go away and spend their time in contemplation in a cave. And they come out and beg for food sometimes, but they just basically want to be left alone. And in a lot of ways, this is analogous to how these people are trying to escape the Sith and go away and be alone with their philosophy. But, the reality keeps coming to find them is that, these are evil thoughts with evil ends, And so I think it's interesting that the Sith master seeks out the apprentice even after they've already left, meaning they still have some sort of value. That's an interesting thing. And yeah, there's a pretty ripe history, especially in the Eastern Christianity, the Orthodox Christianity, of these weird ascetic people that would live on top of a column for their whole lives, and the people would come and shout questions at them and stuff. But the idea is to remove yourself from society so that you can, through introspection, discover the truth and your connection to meditation, connection to your mind, all those things. But the stuff that drives us, the greed that drives us, the necessities of the world pursue us. You can only run from them for so long before someone comes in and goes like, "Hey, you got to pay your mortgage."
Right.
So
you don't pay your mortgage, there's going to be problems.
That's the machine. That's the machine. That's the empire. The empire has to generate the revenue and make things work. That's the bureaucracy. Because you can have these hermits meditating in a cave on top of a column all you want, but that's not going to get anyone anywhere. You have to have industry. You have to have governance. And we have a great model. I mean, the empire is that. I mean, they make things run.
I guess it would be either that or slavery or whatever. You see, you got one or two ways of doing that. I mean, it is a great motivator, money. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I guess
one man's government is another man's slavery. I mean, it's just. It is what it is. I mean, we're all enslaved to something. I mean, we have to go to work. We have to go. If you don't go to work, what are you going to do?
I definitely have envisioned work as some sort of monster from my past pursuing me, ceaselessly over time, relentlessly coming back to me to force me to, to face my own failings. And, I felt like that about a job before, so I get it for sure. And I've definitely felt like someone's given me a lightsaber and been like, you can't bring your friends, but you can come. I feel like
would
that's
you
happened
go?
before.
Would you go?
Yes.
Yes,
Every single
see?
time.
100%.
It's one of the reasons why I really don't think that I'm a safe person to have powers of any sort, which is why it's great that I don't. That's a fortunate thing for me.
And everyone around you.
Everyone
And
else.
probably everybody else, yeah. Like that like the Simpsons Twilight Zone Treehouse of Horror where Bart like can change, like just warp people for, with his mind, like just turns Homer into Jack in the Box and stuff. That's what it would be like. So it's probably best.
It'd be a
Best that
rough reality.
It'd be terrible for everybody.
Don't give Hitch powers.
But I pre-apologize to everybody in those realities where I have these powers, these terrible powers. God, help me and take them from me. But not in this reality. Skip all that in this reality. It's great.
That's what's great about Star Wars is you can live through these characters and have those things. You can and you can relate it back to how reality. You can relate it back to how we live, history. I mean, you can see these things, so it makes them more alive. We've had empires, we've had imperial, devastation. We've seen it in world conflicts. So when we see it on the big screen, it's like, we understand. It makes us feel a little bit smarter because we remember things. We read stories, and that's what these things are, stories. And that's what I credit Lucas most with, is making these stories real for me, just personally. Like I completely believe in protocol droids, 100%. If I saw one walking down the sidewalk, hey, cool. Yeah, it wouldn't pay me no mind. I believe this stuff, and he had such a good way of putting things to paper and then putting them up on the screen.
Even the Ewoks.
Even the Ewoks. I don't mind Ewoks. They're just small Wookiees.
They've never been mentioned again since then.
Never. That was it. Return of the Jedi.
They were only on the Century Moon for that little bit.
And what a great job they did. They took out ATSTs. They took out entire battalions of stormtroopers that couldn't shoot anyway. I mean, these were the worst. They were the poorest.
They were there to take the L. That's why those stormtroopers were there, was to take the L.
Yep, take the L, and their helmets are now a drum set. That was all they were there for.
No, but you guys, I mean, we make all great points and how these short stories lead into everything, and it kind of, like we talk about, it's like the fabric of Star Wars, right? It's really cool how they give these studios, first off, the opportunity to be able to tell like a version of Star Wars, and as we get on in these tales, you'll see even different cultures and other takes on what they feel, their take is on Star Wars, and whether it be a Force story or even a story of family, like very, very unique. It's something crazy. We talked about season one, and I will say, peeking into the future, I felt it as we discussed. These stories were a lot more refined. I thought season one was, like you said, it was kind of all over the place. Like, I even though the animation style is different, I felt like the season two was just a lot more refined as far as like the visual, even on a television set. A couple of the stories on Visions one didn't seem like it fit on a television median or to watch it on the screen. It felt like comic book-ishy. This really felt like something that you can literally see on a video screen. So don't know if that was one of the things they wanted to tackle this time, as far as these short stories, to make them something that translates onto its digital medium. It's even these first three stories. I mean, that third one was almost like was kind of like Pixar-ish almost,
Yeah.
So yeah, the way that was animated, and that was kind of peeking into like the director, Gabriel Vargas. So I have a South American tale, because I know we have the Spanish tale, so I don't know if it would be like a Latin tale or not. But I believe that guy also worked on some uh, some projects as well that were tied together with a lot of the animation you see from Pixar and whatnot. So um, yeah, it kind of makes sense of his style of art. Um, but interestingly, it's crazy. I thought about when they were doing these vision stories and they whatever. I don't know how they go through picking these studios or whatever. Like, how cool would it be for them to give one episode like a contest, and one Visions episode be from like us or like an independent studio, right? That like a fan. 'Cause we talk about like fan fiction and everybody does fan films and all that. How cool would it to be for them to let somebody? Obviously, you have to have the budget to be able to pull it off, right? But to give one episode to like whoever wins or whoever name they draw the hat to be able to discuss or put a Star Wars story out. I've always thought like with the way they do these, that would be so cool to give the fans something to be able to grasp onto, right? And
Mhm.
lead like a fan led story. I just think that would be the coolest thing. If they were open to do that or how they would do it, I don't know, but I just think that would be the sweetest thing.
Well, I think all these stories are fan based. I mean, you don't really get into or invest yourself in this franchise if you don't believe in it. I mean, think about it. This is some pretty crazy stuff. I mean, this is like as out there as you can get. Um, it's very different than any other franchise or storyline I mean, I can't think of anything that's even similar
No.
to Star Wars.
I kind of think what I kind of agree with T Mitch. It will be a nice one shot. Is
Yeah.
if they got like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe like instead of an anthology, 15 minutes, you got like a whole like season of just different stories that they can tell. I don't know, even to take it further, maybe not even in just animation form, but I know it probably just cost them like a chunk of change.
Right. Yeah.
But just tell some stories, just tell some tight stories, that don't have, I guess they could be canon, but are so far outside of the canon that you don't have to have it relate to like a period or whatever.
Right.
Just tell your story. And it falls into one of the maps and stuff that they displayed on screen during like the celebration.
Yeah.
Just falls into that line and everything. But like I said, it still tells the stories outside of the stories and stuff. With like the average guy, which you watch, which I really take to these people. We're talking about more average people with
Right.
like, Lola. Is it Lila or Lola? Lila?
Lola.
Lola.
Okay. And like the sisters and stuff. I mean, they just come and go. These are like just average stories that we're telling in the universe. I always like little stories like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's really cool. On a final
I
point,
accept this charge to write this episode.
There we go.
So it's very generous of you guys to tell Disney to pick me. So thank you, T Mitch and DP. I look forward to this.
what sets this all up though? Like not only visions, but like why not get us all involved if we want to do the what if? Because it's the community that thinks about the what if stories, right? I think that should be like the biggest draw. And obviously they can't get everybody's opinion, but like we always talk about what ifs. I feel like they should go in and like let us online fan vote. Come up with concepts and let us vote on what should be the Star Wars what ifs. Because we literally can't the what ifs episodes will probably do what, 6, 8, as many stories as there is and how many seasons they want to do it. I felt like they should put it online and let the people vote because there are literally so many subplots and so many things that we create that to where they can start dwindling the storyboards down. And I think they should all be led by the community. I think that would be a really good give back to Star Wars fans for us to literally create the stories and then let us vote down like a maybe start out at 50 and then we vote down we just keep getting down to whatever the final 8 is and it gives the community something. It gets engagement on their website. It's just I think that would be something cool for Disney Star Wars to do is for if they do want to do the what if, let the community choose the stories and then let them then go write it. So we give you the medium. It's your time now it's your idea to put it together and deliver what we would want to see, right? I think that would be pretty cool.
So they could be part of the say this, the bigger story. You know, I've always been interested in. So we learned about Boba Fett as a child and his dad Django. So what about those years when he was whatever 10 to when we next saw him? Is there anything written about that? So from Attack of the Clones to
That wouldn't necessarily be like a what if though.
Don't be what if. That's something you need to contact Ray Carson to write. She's a great artist. She's a great book writer for Star Wars. You got to contact her somehow. She'll probably do it. That's
That's
the
an
project we
right?
never did.
well, that would be a
basically-
what if because we don't know. We don't know what that storyline was like. What molded
The
him.
EU back in the day, they gave him essentially the Bo-Katan story was Boba Fett's story. Like that's what it was. So they fleshed out all that stuff about what he was doing and his background with the bounty hunters and all that crap before. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Even as a child?
They talked about. I mean, they talked about all the training he did or whatever. I don't know. Well, it was 20 years ago, man. I mean, like, come on, give me a break.
Right. But no, the what if stuff. I mean, like mine's always, and we've always said it. Like, what if Qui-Gon didn't die to Maul, or ultimately, what if Mace Windu struck down the Emperor? Like, because he was like one of those Jedi that was like a loose cannon, so to speak. That he teetered along with the dark side. He used dark side abilities when he fought with the lightsaber. So like. Crazy enough, what if he becomes like the all-powerful Sith Lord, like Windu, like, you know, somehow the Emperor's essence like transforms into him? Like, there's so many ways you can tweak it.
Okay, so I see. So what if Obi-Wan struck down Vader on the Death Star?
Correct. Or what if Obi-Wan like finished it? What if Anakin finished Obi-Wan on Mustafar?
Finished him.
It was like totally fine, just like
Right.
not even a little bit cut up.
No, yeah, just
And all
think
the
about it,
lines
yeah.
that James Earl Jones gave in the original trilogy are now replaced with Hayden Christensen
ugh.
Right.
saying
Yeah, I
exactly
know.
the same stuff.
But I mean, yeah, there are so many stories I felt like they can dive into, and I mean that's like this Visions that can go on forever. What ifs, right? So that's something. I mean, that I'm sure they. I mean, I know with Marvel they do it, so I'm sure it's something they've tossed around in their meetings and their storyboards, like, you know. But obviously, as we see with their roadmap and the timing thing, you know, it's. I think that'll be one of those projects they just drop on everybody like a surprise, like in November. Hey, let you know, Star Wars What If Season 1 starts, comes out, boom.
Star Wars What If Season 1.
Yeah. Right. That's what it'll end up being. That'll be a sneak release if they do it. I think that'll something they'll hold. That'll be like a bonus for everybody. But it's tough because as we know, you know, Filoni's in development with his stories. He worked on Ahsoka, so I get it, right? The timeline's tough. They're all busy, and as we know from previous seasons with Boba Fett and everything, the experiment with letting everybody get their own episode is kind of over, and they've kind of found their team, their core team that they're going to roll with now. And you're going to see the Bryce Dallas Howards, you know, Carl Weathers.
Those Power Rangers.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, man, I saw that. Oh my God, no, that's a wow. It's yeah, that's another story. That's in one of those. That's another Nerd Psycho Comic Flick show. Oh my gosh. But yeah, crazy way to start out Visions for us. But great to get back on and talk with Star Wars as we always do every week, and excited to bring up next week, which we'll be reviewing episodes 4 through 6 for everybody. So if you haven't watched already, which I don't know why you haven't, go through watch 1 to 3, watch Andor as Ken does in Rogue One 3 different times.
It didn't recommend Andor to me at the end of these.
No. But you watch it anyway, right? Because you
Oh
knew
yeah,
that was
because
good.
you know that's such a great story.
Good recommendation on the table and everything.
So yeah, definitely. But yeah, we'll be reviewing episodes 4 through 6 next week. So guys, until next week, this is the way.
This is the way.
That's the way.